So we move those chairs.
I think your 97 is in the top right through your 7 here.
Okay.
And then your bottom row is this. And then these were the first 2 up front. So I just move these to those 2 and I'll put these last 2 in the front.
That's
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Hopefully they don't do that again.
Let's get the chair moved and then we'll bring him in.
Sorry about that. Yeah, let me get that one hidden.
You want a copy of his list?
Yes, I can do the chart.
Yeah. He's gonna because the 2, but then once he gets that in, he can get to me.
Good pictures this time. But oh, the suit. So we're back, and what's happening is they're dealing with some issues with jury, with some jurors, and they showed one of them, and so I had to cut the stream and go back and just create a whole new one so that we're not showing any jurors. I mean, normally in Florida, there's no law against showing juries in most of the districts. So it's not a horrible issue. You know what? There's going to be no replay on this. Sorry, everybody. I don't think. Oh, wait. Yeah, there is. Oh, good. I'm glad. There's a replay. I was wrong. Like, oh, I forgot. Sorry, I got to get some stuff set up with the stream that I normally do before I start it. So hopefully, there won't be any, sadly, there won't be any closed captions because I didn't get the closed caption thing turned on prior. So sorry about that to those who need that. Okay, let me say hi to who's here. Hi, Barbie. Good to see you. Good morning, Luna. And Beanie's here too. Yep, now we're all strolling back in. So hopefully keep the camera there. Or don't show the bench, please.
All right, please be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Welcome
he's
back.
like, you guys could have gotten me a little bit bigger one.
On the jury, was there anyone, or jury panel, was there anyone who was not able to adhere to the court's instructions about doing any research, looking up anything, or discuss anything about this case with anyone? Seeing no hands, we're ready to proceed. I will at this point have the jury clerk come down and swear you in.
Oh, he's going to be a smiler this whole entire trial, I can just tell.
And raise your right hands.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will well and truly try the issues between the state of Florida and the defendant, Wade Wilson, and render a true verdict according to the law and evidence?
Yes, I do. All right, thank you. Please be seated. All right, then. So, uh, are we ready? Is the state ready to proceed to trial today?
State's ready, Your Honor.
And is the defense ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected and sworn as a jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus Wade S. Wilson. This is a criminal case. Wade S. Wilson is charged with count 1, first-degree murder, count 2, grand theft of a motor vehicle, count 3, battery, count 4, first-degree murder, count 5, burglary of a dwelling, and count 6, first-degree petty theft. The definition of the charges will be explained to you later. The state's charging document, which is called an indictment, is not evidence and is not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. It is the judge's responsibility to explain the law to you. It is your solemn responsibility to determine if the state proved its accusations beyond a reasonable doubt against Wade S. Wilson in accordance with the law that I provide to you. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined and they do not overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. Following the opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits may be produced as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, the attorneys will have the opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following the closing arguments by the attorneys, the court will instruct you on the law applicable to the case. After the final instructions are given, you will then retire to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion on the merits of the case until you have heard all the evidence, the argument of the lawyers, and the instructions on the law by the judge. Until that time, you should not discuss this case among yourselves. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence and the law. I now instruct you not to communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, about this case. No communication includes no emailing, text messaging, tweeting, blogging, or any other form of communication. You cannot do any research about the case or look up any information about the case. If you become aware of any violation of any of these rules at all, notify court personnel of the violation. During the course of the trial, the court may take recesses, and you will be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During these recesses, you must not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about this case, tell him or her that you are on the jury trying the case and ask that person to stop. If he or she persists, leave that person at once and immediately report the matter to the bailiff, who will advise me. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or other types of electronic devices must be turned off while you're in the courtroom. Turned off means that the phone or other electronic device is actually off and not in a silent or vibrating mode. You may use these devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use your cell phone or electronic device to find out any information about the case or communicate with anyone about the case or the people involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of the proceedings or of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure your cell phone or electronic device is turned off. At the end of the case, while you are deliberating, you must not communicate with anyone outside the jury room. You cannot have in the jury room any cell phones, computers, or other electronic devices. If someone needs to contact you in an emergency, the court can receive messages and deliver them to you without delay. A contact phone number will be provided to you. The case must be tried by you only on the evidence presented during the trial in your presence and in the presence of the defendant, the attorneys, and the judge. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. This applies whether you're in the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the trial. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. So do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress again that just as you must not talk about this case face to face, you must not talk about this case by using an electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate. Do not send or accept any messages related to this case or your jury service. Do not discuss this case or ask for advice by any means at all, including posting information on an internet website, chat room, or blog. What are the reasons for these rules? These rules are imposed because jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence presented in the courtroom. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, the trial judge has no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper for the case. Likewise, the parties have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. That is contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to ask questions about and challenge the evidence being considered against it, and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity our judicial system promises. Any juror who violates these restrictions jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result that would require the entire trial process to start over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. If you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court and face sanctions such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt. And the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure. It is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had he or she been permitted to answer. During the trial, it may be necessary to confer with the attorneys out of your hearing to discuss matters that require consideration by me alone. It is impossible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last. When such conferences occur, they will be conducted so as to consume as little of your time as is necessary for a fair and orderly trial of the case. Note-taking by jurors. If you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, of course, you are not required to take notes if you do not want to. That will be left up to you individually. You will be provided with a notepad and a pen to use if you wish to take notes. Any notes that you take will be for your personal use. However, you should not take them with you from the courtroom. During recesses, the bailiff will take possession of your notes and will return them to you when we reconvene. After you've completed your deliberations, the bailiff will deliver your notes to me. They will be destroyed. No one will ever read your notes. If you take notes, do not get so involved in note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. Your notes should be used only as aids to your memory. Whether or not you take notes, you should rely on your memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. With that, state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And the defense is ready to proceed with opening statements?
Yes, Judge.
All right. State.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Kristine Melton was 35 years old when she died. She was found in her South Cape Coral residence, wrapped in some bedding, tied with some shirts and leggings and a bathing suit top. Her face was black and blue. Her fingernails were broken. She had marks around her neck as she lied on the floor between her bedroom in the kitchen area of her residence. Diane Ruiz was 43 years old. She was found on an empty lot under some shrubs. There's a tree just lying there. Her nose had been broken. Her hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage had been broken. She had suffered multiple rib fractures, not only front, but also in the back. Now, what you're going to learn during the course of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, is that Ms. Ruiz and Ms. Melton had three things in common. Both of them died on the 7th of October of 2019. Both of them had been strangled. And both of them, before they were forever silenced, the last person that they encountered was Mr. Wade Wilson. Now, the investigation into their deaths begins a little bit later on the 7th of October of 2019, midday. It begins with a 911 call from a gentleman by the name of Joshua Lukitsch. Joshua Lukitsch ran a business known as Mateo's Graphics. He describes his contact with Mr. Wilson. When he sees him, Mr. Wilson, the only thing he had on was a pair of pants. No shoes, no shirt, blood on him, and he wanted help. He was frantically looking to get out of town because he told them that he'd killed some people. He wanted Mr. Lukitsch's help. Well, Mr. Lukitsch does make that 911 call. Kind of spooked him a little. Cape Coral Police Department arrives on scene. They search the building. They search the exterior of the buildings. Mr. Wilson had since fled. They come across a black Nissan Versa, which is the car that Mr. Lukitsch says that Mr. Wilson arrived in. They look inside. They see bloodstains. They're scared. For concern of the well-being of another, they go ahead and break into that car for fear that the person whose car that is actually in the trunk of that car. They search, no one's there. Do a records check. They find out that this car belongs to a young lady by the name of Kristine Melton. They also find out what her phone number is. They find out where she works. They find out where she lives. They go to these locations. She's nowhere to be found at that point in time. They contact her emergency contact that she has, a young lady by Samantha. Samantha directs law enforcement to another young lady, Kristine Melton's best friend, Stephanie Johnson. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where it all begins. Stephanie Johnson was Kristine Melton's best friend. They've known each other for years. They came down here from Illinois. The night before, 7th of October of 2019, Miss Johnson and Miss Melton had decided to go out that night. They were going to go to a place called the Buddha, which is in Fort Myers. It's a live music venue. It's a bar. They left around 10 o'clock that night. They get there, they're drinking, they're socializing. They meet Mr. Wilson and another young gentleman by the name of Mr. Jason Shepard. Except Mr. Wilson was introducing himself as JR that night. So what winds up happening is Mr. Wilson proceeds to socialize with Miss Melton. And as the night winds down, bar begins to close. Their socialization didn't end there. So Mr. Shepard, Miss Melton, her friend Miss Johnson, and Mr. Wilson all decide to get into a car and go to Mr. Shepard's residence on Sunbury Drive. When they get there, they all go inside. Mr. Shepard's mom's there. She's not exactly excited that, Mr. Shepard's bringing people home. It's late. Nonetheless, they go back towards Mr. Shepard's back bedroom, which leads out to a backyard. And Miss Melton and Mr. Wilson become intimately acquainted. Miss Shepard, or Mr. Shepard, and Miss Johnson go out back. They're just talking, hanging out, whatever, while Mr. Wilson and Miss Melton are getting along. There comes a point in time when they're then asked to leave. There's too much noise going on. They don't, it's getting late. Mr. Shepard's got to get up that morning. So what they opt to do is they try to get back into that car, which is a Dodge Hellcat. And it's also a stick shift. Mr. Wilson tries to get in. Can't drive that car. It's making a lot of noise. Keeps revving the engine. Can't get it in reverse. Can't get it to drive. They have to call an Uber. And Miss Melton, her friend Miss Johnson, and Mr. Wilson all go back to Miss Melton's residence on Tudor Drive in Cape Coral. A little bit later on in the morning, Miss Johnson has to get to work. She's got a kid that she needs to get to school. So she leaves and asks Miss Melton, "Are you okay?" Yeah, there's no warning signs, no red flags, no nothing. So Miss Johnson leaves. Miss Melton is left alone. Mr. Wilson. You know how that morning ended? Miss Melton, once again, had broken fingernails, face was black and blue. She had marks around her neck. She had been strangled. He then proceeds to wrap her up in some bedding, ties the bedding, ties it with her shirts, her jeans, her leggings, her bathing suit top, and tries to pull her out of the bedroom. Except at this point in time, the sun's beginning to come up. It's getting light outside. She's heavy. He wants to get rid of the body. He thinks the better of it, and then decides he's going to leave her there. He gets her keys to the black Nissan Versa. But before he leaves, he gets Miss Melton's iPhone. Proceeds to hold it up to Miss Melton's face, so that way it has a face recognition ID. So that way he can utilize the phone. He leaves Miss Melton's car. He leaves with that phone. He proceeds to call the girlfriend that he'd gone to the Buddha with earlier that night and wanting to know where she was. He repeatedly calls. She tells him to meet her at her spa. which is located right on First Street. Her name is Miss Melissa Montanez. He arrives at Miss Montez's business called Mia Spa in that black Nissan Versa. When he arrives, he makes contact with Miss Montanez. It's not nice. He's trying to pull Miss Montanez into the car. Miss Montanez tries to fight him off. He gets out. That car rolls back. It's another car. Physical altercation takes place between him and Miss Montanez. Miss Montanez isn't anything but 5'2", weighs barely 100+ pounds, soaking wet. She's trying everything she can to fend him off. Comes a point in time when he punches her in the face. Blood flies everywhere. There's also a point in time when he holds her up against the wall. His hand, she can't move. People see this. People in the people in the
Am I still connected or is it just them? If you can hear me, then it's just them. Let me know in chat if it's my internet or...
next building that she shares this business. She didn't live very far away from that particular location, so she always opted and chose to walk to work. She was wearing a light blue shirt, jeans, black shoes. Also had a very colorful purse she was carrying. Mr. Wilson, in his black Nissan Versa, comes across Mr. Ruiz. Now, we don't know exactly how Mr. Ruiz ultimately wound up getting into that particular car, but if you believe how Mr. Wilson tells it, she got in willingly. But remember, Mr. Ruiz had a broken nasal bone. She had multiple fractures or ribs, and she had broken thyroid and neck cartilage injuries to her. We know that Ms. Ruiz lost her purse because it was ultimately found and turned into that elementary school. We know that Ms. Ruiz was actually in that vehicle because of the blood stains that were found in that vehicle. Because we know that DNA forensics that was conducted on that blood stain came back to Ms. Ruiz. What we learn is that we know that Ms. Ruiz was in that car. And what we know also, and that you'll learn, is that she was then taken to an area off of Northeast 4th Avenue, whereby her body was dumped. And there was a neighbor that just happened to live directly behind where her body was dumped. Didn't think anything of it that morning because he was having breakfast with his wife, and sees a car going backwards and forwards, and then ultimately winds up leaving that location. It wasn't until the next day when he sees crime scene tape all over the place and he realizes, oh, I was the one in the same car. What we know is that Miss Ruiz had been strangled. And what we also know is that she died as a result of blunt force trauma because of the multiple rib fractures. And if you want to believe what Mr. Wilson told law enforcement, was that he had driven over her repeatedly and tried to make her look like spaghetti. You'll learn from the medical examiner's office testimony that when one drives over a body repeatedly, rib fractures are likely to occur. Multiple rib fractures are likely to occur. Now, Ms. Ruiz's body wasn't found until a couple days later. But what we know is that
Oh, this is going to be frustrating. I'm thinking that the internet or whatever it is they use to get the feed out from the courtroom is not doing well. Because I don't think it's on my end, because you guys can hear me. So, and I think a courthouse would have better. Sometimes they use the phone's cellular service to get the feed out from the courtroom, and sometimes the service is not that great because they lost the entire thing. So hold on a second, I gotta find something else. 1 second. Let me see. All right, so they're not back. So that's not going to work. I'll have to find something else. Dang it. Ooh. Let me unshare that. Hold on. Let me unpresent. There we go. All right, 1 second. Yeah, they're not coming back up. Linda, if you'll keep trying that and see if they come back up on that channel. I'm not finding anything, and I'm not using a certain channel. So, this may not work if no one else is covering this. Because I'm kind of stuck with options that I don't really want to. Let me see here. Yeah, that channel's not covering it. Oh, this really stinks. All right. Yeah, they did not come back. And there's only one other channel that I see. So this may not work for me. Darn it. Shoot. Well, that stinks. You guys will have to go over to the other place. I don't want to, I don't know what to do. All right. Well, I guess I'm not doing this then. Crud. Yeah, no one else is covering this. Because I think that station they're either having problems or they were just doing it for some clips. I have no idea. Yeah, I would rather not. All right. I guess I'm done. Sorry, guys. I tried. If they come up with something, I just, hold on. Never mind. Hold on. Thank you for the help. Now I'll put this on hold.
You're also going to have DNA analysis.
Thank you.
You can find that those.
Thank you, Linda.
Those leggings.
We did it. We're fine.
Ties.
I am so sorry about that.
DNA comes back to Miss Melton, of course. Also comes back to Mr. Wilson. That blood stain in the car. That's Mr. Ruiz. You're also going to find that there were 2 phones in that car. Guess who those were? Miss Melton's. Second one, Mr. Ruiz. You're going to have phone records. Those phone records are going to show you that Mr. Ruiz's number and Miss Melton's number were also on Miss Montanez's number in her phone records. You're going to hear the confession from Mr. Wilson about the method of the killing, ladies and gentlemen. And you're also going to hear his admission to the actual killing itself. You're going to have photos. You're going to have videos. You're going to have exhibits to examine. When you take all of that and you put it together, the state wants you to return the only verdict that the evidence is going to support, and that is guilty of first-degree premeditated murder for the strangulation and killing of Miss Melton, guilty of grand theft of a motor vehicle for taking Miss Melton's black Nissan Versa, guilty for battery on Miss Melissa Martinez, guilty on first-degree murder of Miss Diane Ruiz for strangling, killing her, and running her over with that car. Asking you to also find him guilty of burglary of a dwelling, of breaking into Mr. Kent and Miss Fanny Amlin's residence. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to return a guilty verdict for petty theft, for helping himself to the food, the drink, and the clothing inside of that residence.
The defense is going to reserve, Judge.
Okay. Very well. Statement called their first witness.
State would call Mr. Joshua Lukitsch, Your Honor.
Okay, so defense has chosen to, whatever that word was, defer. Is that what he said? So they're holding theirs off. They're not. Does that mean that they're not going to give any at all, or are they just going to save it for their case?
All right, sir, if you'll just face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, you take the stand.
Please watch yourself.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Please introduce yourself to ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name.
Joshua Lukitsch.
And Mr. Lukitsch, what do you do for a living, sir?
I own a screen printing and T-shirt and sign company,
And what is the name of that screen printing and sign company?
Mateo Graphics.
And where is that business particularly located?
Hancock Bridge Parkway.
And do you know a gentleman by the name of Wade Wilson?
Yes.
How do you know him?
An acquaintance through a friend of mine who had a business down in Conkey.
I'd like to direct your attention specifically to the 7th of October of 2019. What were you doing that day?
It was a normal business day. I was just dealing with clients that morning.
And so were you at your business at that time?
Yes.
Would that be at 2309 Hancock Bridge Parkway?
Yes.
Did there come an occasion when you came into contact with Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Could you please describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how that came about?
Wade came in a black car. He backed up to one of the buildings on the property there, and he came up to my truck, my vehicle, when I was on the property, and I was with a client at that time, so I told him to give me a moment, and I'll be right with him. And once I went into the building, he was there trying to get a plane ticket or a bus ticket or whatever he could from me to leave town.
And when you saw Mr. Wilson, could you please describe for us what he was wearing at that time?
He was wearing sweatpants only, no shoes, no shirt. He was bloody, and he was missing a couple of teeth.
Could you please describe for ladies and gentlemen of the jury what his demeanor was?
His demeanor was frantic, in a rush to leave as quickly as he could because he had just done something horrific and killed people.
When he was speaking to you and asking you for your assistance, did that give you any cause for concern?
Not right away. And once I took a look at him again, I started to believe what he was saying.
And what exactly was he saying to you?
He said he killed people and he rolled up someone in a carpet or bedding or whatever it was, and that he also needed to get out of town. He needed a plane ticket and a bus ticket or anything he could.
So was he frantically asking you for assistance?
Yes.
Was he pacing back and forth inside of your business?
Inside of the building, yes. Yes.
And were you inside that business at the same time that
Yes.
he was? Were you two the only two people in that building
Yes.
at the time? When he was asking you for your assistance to leave, to get that plane ticket, how were you responding to him?
I responded to him by telling him that a friend of mine called and said that he was beating up Mila in the parking lot that morning. And I confirmed on that. I said, if that's all that it is, you're okay if you guys just got into a fight. But then he continued to talk crazy as far as, no, you don't understand. I killed people. And once it kind of set in, I threw a cigarette at him. I said, why don't you smoke a cigarette? I'll be right back.
Now, at that time, were you frightened?
Yeah.
And you were scared?
Yes.
Were you unsure of Mr. Wilson's intentions at that point towards you?
No.
What did you do at that point in time when you threw him a cigarette and told him to relax?
I told him that I needed to go pick up an employee of mine at a job down the road, and I would be back.
Was that just an excuse to separate yourself from Mr. Wilson that morning?
Yes.
Is your business also equipped with video
Yes.
camera surveillance?
Yes.
Now, what did you do after you left Mr. Wilson's company and went outside?
I drove to my other building, which is adjacent to 2309, 160 Hunter Boulevard. It has a big concrete wall around it. And I called the police at that time when I was at the other building and let them know that everything that he just came in and said.
Judge, let the record reflect, I'm showing defense counsel some previously marked mistakes. Is it number 2?
Okay.
Permission to approach, Judge.
You may.
Lukitsch, I'm handing you some previously marked mistakes. Is it number 2? I asked you to take a look at that item and see if you recognize that.
Yes,
How do you recognize that?
this is my business.
Is that photograph fairly and accurately depict your business back on 7th of October, 2019?
Yes, it does.
State would move State's Exhibit number 2 in evidence, Judge.
Any objection?
No objection.
Be admitted.
Permission to publish, Judge.
You may.
Thank you. So this photograph would be taken from the road there on Hancock Bridge Parkway, and then your buildings is in the back. Is that correct?
Yes, there's two buildings. There's one on the left side, and then there's another one behind the water tower. So there's two buildings on that site, and he came to the building number 2 behind the water tower.
Now, you indicated that you contacted 911. Is that correct?
Yes.
Judge, let the record reflect I'm showing defense counsel Patricia Mark, state exhibit number 1. You wish to approach, Judge?
You may.
Mr. Lukitsch, I'm handing was and marked as state's exhibit number 1. Ask you to take a look at that item. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize that?
This is what I signed off on the 911 call.
And does that 911 call fairly and accurately depict your conversation with the 911 operator on the 7th of October of 2019?
Yes, it does.
Judge, the state moves state's exhibit number 1 into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No objection.
Be admitted.
Permission to publish, Judge?
You may.
Yeah, they had to cut the sound because you could hear his conversation, and that's a no-no. Hey, Kathy Trout, good to see you.
911, what is your emergency? I have a very unstable man that's, I just wanted at my office, 2309 Hancock Bridge Parkway. He's got tattoos, he's shirtless, he's killed some people, and he just hurt a girl. 2309 Hancock Bridge Parkway. Okay. What is the phone number you're calling from? 239-313-8164. Okay, what is your name? Josh. You know, Lukitsch. Okay, tell me exactly what happened. The gentleman's name is Wade something. I have no idea. I went back to my office, my place of business there, and he was there. He was just a cordial friend of a friend associate. He just did something bad, I guess. He was running from somebody, but I need to get him out of my place. And he's saying he's done all these crazy things to somebody and has a stolen car there. It's very odd. Very, very odd. All right, one moment while I put this information. Okay. Yeah. Yes, one moment, sir. Okay, there was an incident that happened at Legacy or at across the street downtown at Legacy Harbor this morning. Okay, all right, one moment. At a place called Mila Spa. Okay, I have a call for dispatch. I just have 2 additional questions as well to later the time response. Give me one moment. All right, thank you. Okay, well, weapons involved were mentioned? Yeah, he said he stabbed somebody, I guess. Do you know what kind, can you describe the weapon to me? I have no idea with that. I usually, he's in my shop. I just left. I'm right around the block. I also escaped with this guy there. He won't leave. Driving a little black Nissan car. There's a business right next to it called Wanted Better Last Towing. He's inside of a blue warehouse.
Okay. Okay, I need to get the person's description. Is he white, black, or Hispanic?
His wife is about 6'2". He has tattoos, left arm, full sleeve tattoos on his chest. He's not wearing a shirt right now.
Not wearing a shirt.
Not wearing a shirt right now.
What color pants?
I think he was wearing jeans.
How old is he? About how old is he?
I would say 25, 26.
And you said his name was Wade?
Wade, yeah, I don't know his last name, but I know his name's Wade.
How did he arrive?
In a black car, in a black little four-door car, Nissan car. He was already there, and I told him in my shop. He said it was a surprising need, not a schedule.
Are you or anyone else in danger right now?
I'm sure anybody is around him right now.
Okay, do not approach the person.
I think I saw something. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay, go ahead.
If you, I'm at 160 Hunter Boulevard, which is my other property right behind the one I just gave you, the address. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. If you want a copy from or something like that. So if they're already there or whatever, I can't see over the wall.
Okay, one moment. Okay, do not approach the person, do not disturb anything at the scene, an officer will be dispatched as soon as possible. Do you want us officer to contact you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, call us back immediately if anything changes, give any further information, or if you leave.
Okay, I'll get you.
Okay, you're welcome, thank you. Okay.
And Mr. Lukitsch, you also indicated that your business has video surveillance. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Exhibit number 3. Permission to approach.
You may.
I'm handing you with some previous marked states exhibit number 3. So you take a look at that item. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize that?
This is the video footage I signed off on.
Okay, does that video footage fairly and accurately depict the video of Mr. Wilson arriving at your place of business on the 7th of October of 2019?
Yes, it does.
At this time, Judge, the state moves states exhibit number 3 in evidence.
You objection?
No objection.
Be admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
You may.
I'm not sure who's bringing him his clothes. It might be his counsel. Let me get the info on who his lawyers are.
So, Mr. Lukitsch, when you had made that 911 call, you indicated that you went to a property behind the Mateos graphic. Is that correct?
Yes.
Where did you go after you made that 911 call?
I stayed at 160 Hunter Boulevard until the officers called me back over to 2309 Hancock because they could not find him in the building. So I walked through the building with them to kind of show them some nooks and crannies that he could have been. And from there on throughout the day into the later hours, I was at Hancock with the officers.
And Mr. Wilson was nowhere to be found. Is that correct?
No.
Did you know where he went?
No.
Okay. Do you see Mr. Wilson here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Would you please point him out and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
He's right there in the blue jacket.
Judge, let the record reflect Mr. Lukitsch is identified, Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
And did everything you testified to occur here in Lee County, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. I have no further questions at this time.
Mr. Lukitsch, we saw the video. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. We saw the video of him getting out of the car. He went in through a door. Is that the entrance to your business?
To that building business, yeah.
Or are there multiple entrances?
There's multiple entrances, yeah.
You described him as, let me ask you something. How well did you know Mr. Wilson?
I didn't know him very well. He was an employee at a friend of mine, marina in Conch Key. And
Down in the Keys.
Down in the Keys. And I've only met him maybe a handful of times before that.
Let me ask you, if you were acquaintances, why would he go to you to get money for a ticket or a plane?
I have no idea.
You said that there were just the two of you. Wasn't there a third employee in the building?
No.
You said he was frantic. Could you describe that more?
He was pacing around.
Kind of manic?
Getting back and forth in close to my person and needing a ticket, any kind of ticket, bus ticket, money or anything. And I told him I couldn't help him.
Okay. And did he lash out at you when you said you couldn't help him?
No.
You said he was talking crazy. What did you mean?
Crazy as far as, no, you don't understand, Josh. I killed people last night.
Did he say he stabbed those people?
I don't recall.
Did he ever work for you?
No.
During the 911 call, there was no mention of him being covered in blood. Did you leave that out?
I don't remember.
But the 911 call would be the best.
To refer.
Right.
Sure.
Okay. I have a moment, Judge.
You may.
Okay, so in this case, they're going to be turning the sound off at certain points like this because you can hear everything. They already turned it off because you could hear him talking to his attorney, Mr. Hollander, and that's a no-no. So yes, cover your mouth. Very good. Much better. The cameras are like right up in there. It's going to be this way the entire trial because that's the whole thing about this case is it's all about his face. And he was given the opportunity to cover all of his tattoos up if he wished, and he refused.
Either of those videos.
I wouldn't. I don't know if the audio is with it. No.
This is your video system, security system, right?
Right.
You don't know if it records sound?
No, I don't.
How long have you been in that location?
That video system was actually taken from a tenant's video system, wanted dead or alive, on my property.
I'm sorry, explain that again?
The tenant
Yeah.
from the building that we were renting to, it was wanted dead or alive. It was in the 911 call.
All right. That was the towing company.
Right.
All right. Did Mr. Wilson live at your condominium?
No, he did not live there.
Did he visit there?
He has maybe been there once or twice before that.
And what, he stayed maybe a week or 2 weeks or?
Not at my property, no.
Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you
Thank you,
reread?
Wendy.
Briefly, Judge.
Mr. Lukitsch, when you described Mr. Wilson talking crazy, was that because of what he was telling you or how he was telling it to you?
It's pretty crazy what he was telling me.
Thank you. No further questions, Judge.
No,
All right.
no recourse.
You may step down, sir.
We're going to ask that he be excused.
No objection.
All right, he's excused. You call your next witness.
Yes, Judge. State would call Officer Chris Anzalone.
So this is going to be a harder trial for us because they are not, or for me trying to figure out names, they are not making them spell their names. So far, the first guy, I just happened to look up his business and that's how I found him. So this is an officer, we'll have to hear, I think he said Inslow. So I'll see if I can keep up with the spelling of these names.
Sir, if you'll just face the clerk, raise your right hand, she'll swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Ooh, he's in uniform. Maybe it's on his uniform. Let's see. I love it when they dress up in their uniforms for trial.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Would you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name?
Officer Christopher Anzalone,
Sir, where do you work?
Cape Coral Police Department,
And how long have you worked there?
6 years.
And in what capacity, sir?
I'm currently a school resource officer.
Now, were you a school resource officer back on the 7th of October of 2019?
I was not. I was on road patrol in Zone 1.
And what does that mean?
That's just a little precinct that I had worked in at the time, which
And
is
what,
where the incident occurred.
okay. And which incident are you referring to, sir?
The Mateo graphic at 2309 Hancock.
And did you have an occasion to go to Mateo Graphics there at 2309 Hancock Bridge Parkway?
Yes, I did.
What was the reason for you to go to that location?
I was the primary officer and I responded after Josh had called 911. I went there to make contact with Josh.
And did you ultimately make contact with Mr. Lukitsch on that date and time?
Yes, I did.
And what happened when you made contact with him?
I spoke to Josh. He told me that
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
After you had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Lukitsch, what did you do in response to the information that you received from Mr. Lukitsch?
I went to the blue building that was on the property to search for Wade Wilson.
And what can you describe for ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you went about doing that?
So it was basically set up. It was a tow yard. So we had a bunch of cars in the parking lot. There was a blue building full of cars inside as well. Myself and a canine officer, Officer Reese, had gone into the building and searched the entire area and searched the inside of all the vehicles at the tow yard.
And did you ultimately direct your attention to the inside of the buildings as well?
That's correct.
And when you say you went into the buildings, was anyone directing you to where all the various locations would be, or any type of hidden locations or anything along those lines?
We searched the building in its entirety.
Did you also search the exterior of the buildings?
That's correct. We searched the perimeter.
And during the course of your search, did you locate anyone?
We did not.
So you didn't locate an individual by the name of Wade Wilson?
No, sir.
What did you do after you went ahead and searched the buildings on that property?
At that point, we had called for a detective. The vehicle that Wade Wilson had arrived in, we heard to have blood on it, and there was front end damage. When we ran the license plate, it came back to Kristine Melton. So we knew the vehicle did not belong to Josh. We tried to get a hold of Kristine Melton, but it was unsuccessful.
After you tried to make contact with Ms. Kristine Melton, what did you do next?
We sent officers down to Kristine's house to try to locate her.
And was that you who was doing that?
I was not. I stayed at the 2309 Hancock address.
So when you looked at this particular vehicle, you indicated that you noticed something inside?
Correct. There was blood on the passenger door.
So what did you do in response to when you saw blood on the interior of that vehicle?
We ended up Officer Amata broke the driver's side window of the vehicle. And due to the circumstances of us not being able to get in contact with the registered owner, we broke the window and popped the trunk, and we checked the trunk to make sure that there was nobody inside.
Why would you break the window?
Because Wade Wilson had made phone calls from Kristine Melton's cell phone, which we knew at the time, and we weren't able to locate her.
Judge, let the record reflect. I'm sorry, defense counsel, Marcus states 5, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5E, and then 5F.
Paris is gorgeous. I've been there.
Counselor,
Loved
can you
it.
recite those numbers again for me? 5.
5, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5E, 5F. Permission to question?
You may.
Officer Anzalone, I'm sure you Mr. Proofs and Marcus states 5, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5E, and then 5F. I asked you to take a look at those items and see if you recognize those.
Yes, this is the vehicle.
That's one of the same vehicle that that had its window punched out because you saw blood on the inside?
That's correct.
And do those photographs fairly and accurately depict the vehicle back on the 7th of October of 2019,
Yes, sir.
that you recall. Judge, at this time, the state will move state exhibit number 5, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5E, and 5F into evidence.
Any objections?
None, Judge.
All right, be admitted.
Permission to publish, Judge?
You may.
Now, Officer Anzalone, I'm showing you what's been previously public or admitted as state exhibit number 5. Is that the black Nissan Versa that you had to punch
Judge,
the
so we have
window out?
5 what?
Yes, I agree.
It's just state exhibit number 5.
Is it A, B?
It's 5, and then we have 5A, 5B,
Okay.
5C, 5E,
Okay,
5F.
so you're moving to have exhibit 5 also admitted.
Yes, Judge.
Any objection?
Is this 5?
Yes.
Apparently. Any objection?
Objection.
All right, be admitted.
Officer Anzalone, I'm showing you state exhibit number 5. Is that the vehicle that you had encountered on the 7th of October, 2019, that you had to punch the window out of?
Yes, sir.
5A, that's the back of the vehicle,
That's correct.
and you indicated that you also searched the trunk of that vehicle, is that correct?
Correct.
There wasn't anything in that trunk?
There was some beach equipment. I believe there's a beach chair in there.
There was no body, correct?
Body.
5B, does that reflect the window that had been broken out on the driver's side of the vehicle?
Yes.
And 5C, is that the interior of the aftermath of punching out that particular vehicle with the window shards on the inside on the driver's seat?
Yes.
Then as we're looking here at 5E, specifically right in this area here, which is a third away from the top on the passenger side door, and then on the right side of the photograph. Are those the blood stains that you had observed?
Yes.
And then 5F, near the belt buckle itself, little mark that's located directly to the left and down on the black portion plastic which supports the frame. Is that the blood stains that you were referring to?
That is correct.
And when you saw those stains, those gave you cause for concern,
Absolutely.
and you could observe those stains from the exterior of the vehicle.
Correct.
And that was the reason for why you went ahead and broke out the window.
Yes.
You indicated that you had gone ahead and conducted a record search for the registered owner of this vehicle,
That's correct.
and you determined it to be Ms. Melton.
Yes.
What did you do with that information after you obtained it?
We passed it on to the South District Sergeant and spoke to our major crimes and gave them the information.
Do you know what they did with it?
They sent officers to her address and they held it as a potential crime scene. So they were able to make entry.
I'm sorry, what was the last
Until
one?
they were able to make entry into the home.
Were you part of that entry team?
I was not.
After you had gone ahead and broken out this window and learned that there was no one on the inside of this vehicle, what was your next duty at that point in time?
So at that point, we held the car as a crime scene and we waited for a tow truck to arrive to transport the vehicle back to the K4 Police Department for processing.
And was that the extent of your involvement in this case?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness, Judge.
What time did you get called or dispatched?
I was dispatched at 1:37 in the afternoon.
What time did you arrive?
I do not recall.
It was an hour later?
No, it would have been shortly after I received the
Were
call.
there other officers there before you?
There was a sergeant and another road officer that was there.
When was did you maintain contact of the car, the vehicle?
Yes.
When did that get towed?
I don't know the exact time off the top of my head. It was later on in the afternoon.
Was it a couple hours later? I mean,
That's correct.
all right. From your observations, were you able to tell when that alleged blood was placed there, got there?
I couldn't tell you how long it was there for.
Did you touch it?
I did not.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right.
Nothing further from the state judge.
All right,
We
you
ask
may
that
step
be
down.
excused.
Any objection? To be excused.
Judge, can we approach?
Yes.
Okay, we have a sidebar. So far we've had witness who, the first guy who, the Joshua Lukitsch, he is the one who saw the defendant covered in blood and called 911. And then we have this officer. Right, okay, they're done. School resource officer.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I swear. Thank you.
All right, take a stand. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name.
Patricia Bell,
And where do you work?
the Cape Coral Police Department.
And what do you do for the Cape Coral Police Department?
I am a detective in the Major Crimes Unit.
And how long have you been a detective for the Major Crimes Unit?
16, 17 years.
Were you working as a major crimes detective back on the 7th of October of 2019?
Yes, I was.
Did you become involved in the investigation of Miss Kristine Melton?
Yes, I did.
And how'd you come about being a detective in that particular case?
I was the on-call detective for that day. I received a telephone call from Sergeant Gleason, who was on the scene at Mateo Graphics, and he notified me of what was going on up there regarding a subject. According to the complaining party, a subject showed up in a black Nissan Versa. He said that that person was known to him.
Your side.
Sustain.
And after he provided information to you, what did you do with that information?
He provided information to me. Then I provided information to other detectives within the unit to facilitate the investigation. I asked another detective at the time, Detective Nick Malone, to run the person's name, who happened to be Kristine Melton, into what's called NCIC FCIC, to see if we could gain some emergency contact information for her.
And ultimately, were you able to obtain that emergency contact information for Ms. Melton?
Yes, we did.
And when you received that information for the emergency contact, what did you do with that information?
Detective Malone contacted the emergency contact, who put us in touch with another person who was the name of Stephanie Johnson, who was out with Kristine Melton the night before, into the early morning hours leading into this date that we are.
So in essence, you essentially went ahead and facilitated the coordination of that information to provide around to road patrol officers as well as other detectives. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you also facilitate the determination of who that black Nissan Verso belonged to?
Yes, patrol had run the tag on scene, and the tag returned to Kristine Melton at 4838 Tudor Drive in Cape Coral.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions?
Detective, did you interview a Jason Shepard?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did he provide you with a cell phone belonging to Mr. Wilson?
Yes, he provided a cell phone that belonged to Mr. Wilson.
Did you ever place that into evidence?
I'm sure the phone was placed into evidence. Yes, sir.
That's not what I asked you. I said, did you place it into evidence?
I don't recall, sir.
What did you do with it?
I don't recall if I collected said phone or if another detective on scene collected the phone. It may have been collected by forensics.
Did you go through the phone?
It was forensically examined, I believe, sir. Yes.
But did you go through it first?
No, sir.
No, you didn't go in and scroll through anything?
No, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right. You may step down.
Thank you.
She should be excused.
Any objection?
No objection.
She's excused. All right. Before you call your next witness, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a short break. Be about 10 minutes. We'll send you back to the jury room. Just leave your notepads there and just remember my instructions.
All right.
All right. We are now on a break, 2-minute break. The camera stuff is really good in this trial. I'm very pleased with it. I assume that we know who it, I think it's Court TV. It's probably the ones doing it. They're usually really good. They have the ability to put all those different cameras in there and makes it easy for us to be able to see different, I always love a multicam setup in a courtroom. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, just a real quick one. I never got my coffee, never got anything this morning. I went running. I don't have my water. I need to go get my water. I am dry. I will be right back. Oops, I went fuzzy. Sorry. Let me see. Did it fix? I think it did. I'll fix it. Let me see. Let me make myself bigger. Hold on. Nope, it's fuzzy. Hold on. Boop. Nope. I'll be right back. Should be good. Okay, it's better. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, I am back with my coffee. Much better. Ugh, I needed something. Hey, Lemon Curd, good to see you. Let's see who, Brian, I didn't get to say hi. I didn't say hi to you earlier, so hi. Oh, in this case, so I'm already feeling a little bit of a struggle in trying to follow this one because no one is doing updates on this trial. Very few. And when there are updates on it, they're way behind. So but anyway, so far not okay, let me see if I can find one, at least one. So the first witness did say that his quote was, he was bloody and he was missing a couple of teeth. Oh, ow. He also said he killed people and he rolled up someone in a carpet, and that he also needed to get out of town. That was from the first witness. So one of the things that the prosecution's opening statement was that Wilson left a bar with victims Kristine Melton and another woman. They ended up at Melton's place. The next morning, the other friend left. State says Wilson then strangled or killed Melton, which is the count. Yes, which is the, where is it again? I lost it. Count 1, first-degree murder. He then took Melton's car, count 2, grand theft. Oh, when I was doing this, when I created my little first blurb, I think it was, or was it the second one? Whichever one it was, I read petty theft in French. I hadn't. I was playing it for my husband, and then it hit me while I was watching it. Oh crap! It's not petite theft, because I forgot the word petty in Spanish is pronounced petit. We used to have a cat that was, his name was Petit Lapin. Petit Lapin. It means little rabbit or something like that. Petite, it means small. So petty theft would be small theft. So then that's the where to go. So anyway, I pinned a comment saying, yes, I realized that I pronounced that in Spanish. I mean, French instead of English. But it was because I saw it, and it just, I've never seen it spelled out that way. I always thought it was petty, Petty. That's how I always thought it was. That's because that's how you pronounce it in the head. I didn't realize, that it was from French, or is it Latin? I don't know, but I think it was French. So, count 1. Then he took Melton's car, which is the grand theft, drove to his girlfriend's or Melissa Montanez's place of work. He beat her up, 3 counts of battery, left and came upon victim Diane Ruiz. Diane is the darker haired of the two in the photos in my thumbnail. Ruiz. So then he left and came upon victim Diane Ruiz walking, and that's count 4, first-degree murder. Ruiz's blood is found in Melton's car. Her body eventually found strangled. He then ended up at Kent and Fanny Amlin's house. They were out of town. Wilson broke in and hung out in their house. Count 5, 6 burglary and petty theft. Not petite theft.
All right,
And we're back.
let the record reflect state's present, defense counsel, defendant are present. Are we ready to bring the jury back in? Very well.
Hello, Lemon. I want to know whose idea it was to give him a very vibrant coat. It's to detract from the face, most likely. He always has a smirk or whatever. He always has this look on his face like, yeah, uh-huh. And I agree with whoever it was that said he would be handsome. I mean, I love good tattoos. I love a man in a full tattoo, you know, the whole bit. But these aren't the greatest.
All right, please be seated. Statement call the next witness.
The state calls Stephanie Johnson.
We've warmed up here. I get to drink cold coffee. I love it.
All right. You'll just face the clerk, raise your right hand. She'll swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can take the stand.
Just watch your step.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
You may.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please tell the jurors your name.
Stephanie Sailors.
What was your name back in 2019?
Stephanie Johnson.
Have you since gotten married?
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 41.
Do you know someone by the name of Kristine Melton?
Yes. Kristine and I have been friends since we were in high school.
Where did the two of you meet?
In Illinois, where we grew up.
When did you meet?
When we were about 15 years old, and we became friends through her cousins, who I'm also very close with. And we were inseparable, moved across the country together, lived together all through our 20s, and then ended up moving to Florida to be close to all of our family down here.
Where else did you live across the country with Kristine?
We lived in Colorado together as well.
Did you both end up here in Cape Coral, Florida?
Yes.
Back in October of 2019, were you working?
Yes, Kristine and I both worked at Duffy's in Cape Coral.
What type of employer is Duffy's?
It was a restaurant and bar, and we both waited tables there.
Was Kristine dating anyone back in October of 2019?
No, Kristine was not dating anybody.
Were you dating anyone?
No, I was not.
Where did Kristine live at the time?
Kristine lived in Cape Coral off of Tudor Drive.
What type of home did she live in?
It was a duplex apartment.
Did she live with anyone?
She lived alone.
Did she have any pets?
She did have one cat.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing defense counsel what's been previously marked as State's Exhibits 4 and 10A.
to show you these photos and ask if you'll take a look and tell me if you recognize them. Starting with State's Exhibit 4, what do you recognize this exhibit to be?
That's Kristine.
Okay. Is that how she looked back on October 6th and 7th of 2019?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 10A. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, that is the apartment that Kristine lived in.
And does that fairly and accurately show the apartment that she lived in back in October of 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the state would move 4 and 10A into evidence.
Any objection? Be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Is that Kristine?
Yes.
I'm showing you her duplex where she lived at the time. Which door is hers?
The white door on the left. So there's a window and then the door right next to it to the right.
Okay, so the door to the right of the window is her door, or the door to the left of the window?
To the left of the window.
Of the middle window?
Yeah, the far left door.
Thank you. I want to take you back to October 6th of 2019. Did you see Kristine on that day?
Yes, Kristine and I had planned to meet up later that night and to go out drinking at the Buddha bar in Fort Myers.
Had you ever been to the Buddha bar?
I had not been there before.
Where is the Buddha located?
It's located off of McGregor and I think College Parkway.
Is that in Lee County, Florida?
Yes.
How did the two of you get to the Buddha?
So I met Kristine at her apartment that night and we took an Uber from her apartment to the Buddha.
About what time did you Uber over to the Buddha?
Around 10:30.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
For the record, I'm Exhibit 7. I'm showing you State's Exhibit 7. Will you take a look at it and tell me if you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, this is the Buddha in Fort Myers.
And is the bar behind the big statue of the Buddha?
Yes, that's the main entrance to the bar.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move 7 into evidence.
Any objection? Be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Do you have any specific reason the two of you chose the Buddha on that night?
There was live music there that night, so we wanted to go see a band play.
When you got there, what was just sort of the general environment of the bar?
It wasn't overly crowded. There was, a decent amount of people there that night, dancing, drinking, nothing out of the ordinary from a typical bar.
Was there a band playing?
Yes.
Now, were you friendly and did you talk to other people that were there?
Yeah, we socialized quite a bit. There's a couple of different bars in the main bar, and we were down at one bar, we danced, we got drinks at other bars, we talked to the people that were there. Pretty standard going out night.
Now, obviously you're drinking and listening to music this entire time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had been drinking pretty heavily that night.
And is that why you chose to get an Uber?
Yes, yeah, we both knew we were going to be drinking, so we didn't want to be driving at all.
Now, while you were there, did someone approach you?
Yeah, towards the end of the night, as we were walking up to the upstairs bar, somebody jumped out in front of me, kind of just like to get my attention, and said, "Hey, who's your friend?" And gestured towards Kristine. And, he seemed friendly and introduced himself. And I grabbed Kristine and said, "Hey, this guy wants to meet you."
What was his demeanor?
Friendly, charming.
Is there any red flags that popped up when you were talking to him?
No.
How did he introduce himself to you?
At that point, he introduced himself as JR.
Do you see JR sitting in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Would you please point to him and identify an article of clothing that he's wearing?
right there in a bright blue suit.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Okay.
Now, has his appearance changed since the time that you met him?
Yes, he has a lot more tattoos on his face. He did not have any facial tattoos
May I
the night
approach
we
a
met
witness?
him.
You may.
At this time, the state showing what's been marked as State's Exhibit 39. Would you take a look at State's Exhibit number 39 and tell me if you recognize that exhibit?
Yes,
What do you recognize it to be?
JR, the person who introduced himself to us that night.
And is he the same person sitting here in court today?
Yes, ma'am.
And does this fairly and accurately represent how he looked back on October 6th of 2019?
Exactly.
You know, at this time, the state would move 39 into evidence.
It'll be admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
Now, after you introduced him to Kristine, what happened next?
Kristine and I and JR and another man, Jason, who we were introduced to by JR, talked at the bar, mingled. Kristine and JR seemed to be interested in each other. Me and Kristine had commented on how he had dimples, and one of the guys she had been talking to earlier in the night only had one dimple and he had two dimples. And, she definitely was attracted to him and he seemed attracted to her, and they were friendly and getting to know each other.
Now, you mentioned that JR introduced you to someone by the name of Jason.
Yes. So there was another man that he was with at the bar named Jason, and I was under the impression that they were there together as friends, just like me and Kristine had been.
At some point, did you take your talking and socializing outside of the bar?
Yeah, so that was at the end of the night and the bar was closing. So they were kind of shuffling everybody out the door. Kristine and I went outside and we're still continuing to socialize with JR and Jason until, it was decided to leave. And me and Kristine had came in an Uber. So we followed Jason and JR to their car. JR had tossed the keys over to Jason and we were going to go after party. I didn't know at that point if we were going back to Kristine's house or where we were headed from there, but we were going together.
Now, when you went into the parking lot, everybody's talking. Again, describe the mood.
Happy. Everybody was cheerful, intoxicated, but there wasn't anything out of the ordinary or scary by any means. Just typical end of the bar night.
Now, is this around 2 a.m. that the bar's closing and kicking everybody out?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
so everything was closing at that point.
Again, as far as JR's concerned, does he exhibit any kind of anger or any kind of red flags?
No, not at all.
And in fact, you and Kristine thought he was charming.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned that JR threw the keys over to Jason.
Mm-hmm.
What type of car was it that you got in?
It was a Dodge Hellcat, I think it's called.
Whose car did you believe that was?
I believed it was Jason's at that point.
When you got it,
yeah,
you believed it was Jason's car?
I don't really remember. I just know Jason was driving at that time, so my assumption was that it was his car.
Where did everybody sit in the car?
Jason sat in the front seat. Kristine sat in the in the passenger seat, and then me and JR were in the back seat.
Now, where did you end up going?
We drove not very far. It was only a couple of turns, maybe less than 10 minutes in the car, but we ended up at Jason's house.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing defense counsel what has been previously marked as case exhibits number 8 and 9. I'm showing you states exhibits number 8 and tell me if you recognize them.
This is the car that we left the Buddha in.
States exhibit number 8. Does that fairly and accurately represent the way the car appeared when you got in it that night?
Yes.
Showing you states exhibit number 9. What does states exhibit number 9 show?
This is Jason's house.
Is this the house where you went to after the bar closed?
Yes, I remember that star on the house.
Your Honor, at this time, the state will move 8 and 9 into evidence.
Any objection?
Permission to publish.
You may.
You just told the jurors this is the Hellcat that you all got in,
Yes, ma'am.
and then states exhibit number 9. That's Jason's house.
Yes.
When you arrived at Jason's home, was anyone else present?
Yeah, his mom was home. So when we walked in the front door, his mom was awake and on the couch and not very happy that he was bringing people home. We tried to make small talk and, kind of ease the situation. But we just ended up going to Jason's bedroom, which was down the hall from there.
Now, when you got back into Jason's bedroom, what happened with Kristine and JR?
So pretty quickly after getting to Jason's house, Kristine and JR started having sex.
And when they started having sex, what did you and Jason do?
Jason had a bedroom that led to the outside. So Jason and I hung out outside most of the time, only to, really go in to use the bathroom maybe. Kristine and JR were inside for a while. They came outside and mingled a little bit with us and went back into the bedroom.
You mentioned that they started out having sex. Did their sexual encounters appear to be consensual?
Yes.
So there was nothing that, again, at this point that caused any red flags?
No.
Now, when you and Jason were outside, what were the two of you doing?
We were drinking, smoking, talking. He had a trampoline out there, so we sat on the trampoline and talked for a while, just mingling, talking.
Did the two of you have any interest in each other that night beyond just talking and friendship?
No.
So did the two of you hook up at all?
No.
Now, you mentioned that JR and Kristine would go inside the house and come back out and kind of go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
During these back and forth interactions, were they normal types of interactions?
Yeah.
Did they appear to be having a good time?
Yeah, they appeared to be having a good time with each other and, joyful and, nothing out of the ordinary or concerning.
Now, about how long were you at Jason's house?
I would say we were probably there for a couple hours, maybe 2 hours.
After about 2 hours, did you all leave?
Yes. So we were at Jason's house and then kind of, quickly JR was saying, oh, we got to go. This guy doesn't want us here anymore. And it was kind of at that point that I realized that Jason and JR didn't know each other before this night. The way JR was, seeming at the beginning of the night was that, they were there together. And then when we were leaving, it was, it didn't seem that way. It seemed like this guy wanted us out of his house and it was kind of quickly an exit. But when we went to the driveway, now JR was driving.
Okay, so when you are leaving Jason's house, was it somewhat abrupt as far as?
Yeah, it was
leaving?
quick, but there wasn't anything like he wasn't mad. It was just time to go.
And this night that you went out on the bar, it was a Sunday night?
Yes.
So you're going into now Monday morning?
No, Monday, everybody. The next day, his mom obviously wasn't happy that we were there to begin with, so.
So the party, everything's kind of winding down for the night?
Yes, and we go and get in the car, and JR is trying to back the car out of the driveway, and he can't get it to go in reverse. It's just revving the engine in the driveway.
Is the car a manual or a stick shift?
It's a stick shift
Is
car.
it clear to you that he was unable to drive a stick shift?
Yes.
So what happened is you're in the driveway and he's revving the engine?
So Jason actually had come outside because he heard the engine revving, and said, you guys got to leave. You can't be here anymore. You're being too loud. It's, almost the morning. Actually, car into he was trying to get the car into drive and go forward, and same thing, he couldn't get the car to move. He's just revving the engine in the middle of the street. It was at that point that I got out of the car and said to Kristine, I said, get out of the car. Let's take an Uber. Let's get in an Uber and go home.
Okay. So were you able to make contact with an Uber driver to have them come pick you up?
Yes, Kristine called the Uber.
Now, once the Uber driver arrived, did you get into the Uber right away?
Yes, I got into the Uber right away. Kristine and Wade Wilson were looking for his cell phone. He couldn't find his cell phone. So they started to walk back towards Jason's house to look for his cell phone. I don't know if they made contact with him. I was sitting in the Uber at that point with the Uber driver, and both him and I remember him saying, oh, they got 5 minutes or I'm leaving. And, both of us were ready to go at that point.
Now, to your knowledge, did Wade Wilson, or the person that was saying that he was JR, did he ever find his phone that night?
I don't believe so.
So when he and Kristine got back in the car, where did the Uber driver take you?
The Uber took us back to Kristine's apartment.
And then that's 10A, Kristine's apartment.
Yes.
Now, what happened when you got back to Kristine's home?
When we got back to Kristine's home, the three of us went into her house, and I know Kristine and I had this sense of relief that we had made it home, that we got home, safely, and, just it was winding down. I remember sitting on the couch and taking my shoes off. I remember Kristine standing in the kitchen getting something to drink. And I remember telling her, I had to go home because I had to go to work the next day and take my son to school.
Now, where was your son staying that night?
He was with my mom.
And did you and your son live with your mom?
Yeah, we lived with her at the time.
Now, about what time did you leave to go home so that you could take your son to school and go to work?
About 6 o'clock.
Now, prior to leaving, did everything seem fine?
Yeah, it did. And I remember telling Kristine, I have to go home. I have to go to work. And she was like, okay. She hugged me and kissed me goodbye and said, talk to you tomorrow.
And again, when she told you goodbye and that she'd see you tomorrow, did you have any concerns for her safety?
No.
And in fact, if you did, would you have left her home with just her and Wade Wilson in that house?
Not at all. And if she was concerned, Kristine would have never let me leave that house if she was scared. She would have said, let's get this guy out of here together.
So when you left, is it safe to say that really the night was over? The party was over?
Yeah.
It's already morning time.
Mm-hmm. And, like I said, we had this sense of relief that we had made it home. We obviously were in a car with somebody who couldn't drive a car. And I know for me, that was the scariest part of that night, was the being behind the wheel of a car with somebody who couldn't drive. And I know when we got back to Kristine's house in that Uber, it felt like, we were home safe.
And it seems that your concern was not driving while intoxicated because along the way you had gotten Ubers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when you left, you said that you had to take your son to school and you also had to go to work. What time did you go to work?
I had to work the morning shift at Duffy's that day. I think I was at work by 10:30 in the morning. My son starts school at 9, so I dropped him off and then went to work.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Kristine worked at Duffy's. Did she have to work a shift that day?
She was not scheduled to work that day.
Nevertheless, did you reach out to her just to check in with her at some point?
Yeah, I had texted her in the early afternoon and just said, "You up?" And I did not receive a response.
All right. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing State's Exhibit, or I'm showing defense counsel has been marked as State's Exhibit 6, 5I, and 5J. I ask you to take a look at State's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize the numbers on State's Exhibit 6?
Yeah, that's Kristine's phone number.
Is that the phone number you texted her?
Yes, ma'am.
Showing you State's Exhibit 5I. What is 5I?
Kristine's cell phone.
Okay, and 5J?
It's the back of Kristine's cell phone.
And is that a pop-it that's on the back of her cell phone?
Yep.
That would
Pop
help her to hold
socket.
it?
Yep.
And is this the phone that she carried that night and carried with her at all times?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to move 6, 5I, and 5J into evidence.
Any objection? Be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Showing State's Exhibit 6. That was Kristine's cell phone number at the time.
Yes.
Is 630 like a Chicago or an Illinois area code?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an Illinois area code.
Showing you 5I. That's the front of her cell phone.
Yes.
And then 5J, that's the back of her cell phone with the pop socket.
Yes.
Now, when she didn't immediately respond to your text, were you concerned at all?
No, at that point, I was not concerned. We had had a late night. She didn't have to work. I assumed she was sleeping.
Okay. Did you later on try to get a hold of her?
So when I left work, I called her again. She didn't answer. And then I got in touch with Samantha, who is her cousin. Again, not concerned that I hadn't heard from her. I asked Sam, I said, "Have you talked to Kristine at all today?" She said no. I had told her, I was out with her last night, just kind of told her about our night and what we did, and ended the conversation. Maybe a few minutes later, I'm not sure how long, I got a call from the Cape Coral Police Department.
Now, you mentioned you talked to Samantha, who was Kristine's cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Was Samantha also a good friend of yours?
Yeah. Samantha and I have been friends since high school as well.
And was Samantha obviously she was the cousin of Kristine, but were they also very close?
Yeah. All of us have been like sisters, like best friends.
And Samantha had not gone out with you the night before?
No, Samantha was not with us.
Now, did you also try to call Kristine?
Yeah, I tried to call Kristine and text her that day.
When you called her, did the phone ring numerous times?
Yes.
It didn't go straight to voicemail?
I honestly, I remember it ringing and going to voicemail. I don't remember how, if it went straight to voicemail or, rang for a long time.
But either way,
I know I did not talk to anybody and nobody answered.
No one
She did.
answered.
No.
Now, you mentioned that a Cape Coral detective called you. And what was the purpose of that detective's call to you that you thought at the time?
So at that time, when they called, they were asking me if,
Your Honor,
Sustained.
may I give a
Yes.
object? It's not for the truth of the matter asserted, but for the effect on the listener.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you back to the jury room for a few minutes.
All rise.
Okay, so I guess they're going to be arguing this for a bit. Dang it, why does it have to be such a so close, too close, too close? Every time I look over, it's like, oh, shock. Windy. Oh, I don't know how to.
The
Oh,
courtroom can be seated.
Judge, I think it would be helpful if I just proffered a couple questions so that I could make my argument as to
Okay.
how this is not going to be hearsay.
All right.
All right. So you received a call from a detective, and what was the basis, or what was that conversation?
the police were asking me if I knew where Kristine was or why her car would have been found in Fort Myers.
So based on these questions, what did it cause you to do?
It caused me to start being concerned about what happened to Kristine after I left.
Okay, and then so based on your concern about what happened, what did you do?
Myself, Samantha, our other best friend, and Samantha's husband all went to Kristine's apartment.
And when you got to Kristine's apartment, what did you see there?
When we got there, the caution tape was already up.
So, Your Honor, the reason for asking the detective is not to prove that her car was stolen, but to prove that at that point, based on our conversation, the action she took and the steps she took, which were to talk to her cousin Samantha, to then actually go over to that home. So based on that, the state would argue that's an exception to the hearsay rule and it should be admissible.
My objection is it's hearsay and relevance, there's no relevance. And she can just say, based on what the officers told me, I went over to the house without relaying what the officers told me.
Judge, if you're saying what the officers told me, that's again, it's still an exception to hearsay. What the officer told her is not used for the truth of the matter asserted. So therefore it is non-hearsay because the exception is the information that he told her was used by her to then go to the house and to further try to find out where her friend Kristine was. So what the officer told her, we're not using that for the truth. So therefore it's not hearsay.
But the other objection was to relevance of the effect on her.
Sure. The relevance is that at this point, she realizes that she should be concerned that her friend is missing and that she goes over there. So it's highly relevant as to how this day took place and how she gets over to her missing friend's home and what she does. That's all completely relevant to this case and to the charges that we have before this court.
All right.
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry. While it may be interesting, it's not relevant to anything in this case.
Okay. All right. I'm going to sustain the objection. You can ask her about getting a call from the detective. I think you could go as far as having an objection to her asking, the detective is asking questions about Miss Melton.
Correct.
And then what did you do next?
If it's just based on what the detective said, ask you, what did you do?
Right. So I'll ask her, did the detective call you? And based on what he told you, did you become concerned and then go to Kristine's home?
Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Let's bring the jury back in. Yes.
Gentleman's chair that I pulled out, I noticed he had two books, and I asked him, he went back, I said, what's that other book? He said, it's my personal. And I said, I have to bring it to the attention of the judge. He said he didn't write anything in it.
Okay. So I guess one.
It's an official notebook as long as that
As
notebook.
long as it stays here, he can't take it back. He can't take it back to the jury room with him.
Okay.
Any objection to that? Okay. And I can even just instruct them that I prefer they use the notepads that the court provided. And if they, anything else, leave it out of the courtroom and just use the notepads in the courtroom and leave those in the
For
courtroom.
now, it stays in the courtroom.
Yeah, he said he hasn't written anything in it.
May I hand it to you?
You have it?
Yes. Okay.
No, just leave it. That's fine. Where is it? In his chair? Okay. No, I don't. What we'll do is, all right. Yeah, let me take a look. Okay, it's blank. There's nothing in it. So that's his personal one. There's nothing in here. Doesn't appear to be anything written in it. It's just got his juror summons. So just ask him to leave this back in the jury room and only use the note and pad that the court has provided. Yes.
Just so the record's clear, the bailiff handed the notebook that the juror brought with him to court. The court has reviewed it. There's no writing on the inside. You've given it back to the bailiff.
Correct.
Thank you.
Wait a second. I'm
And then
confused.
bring everybody else out.
So what? Wait. Oh, so what just happened? They had a juror who brought their own notepad in. Is that what it was? I guess the juror didn't realize that notepads were provided.
Now I'll instruct all the jurors if they brought their own personal notebooks or anything, just to leave those back in the jury room and only use the ones provided by the court.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah. So a juror had brought their own notepad, and they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to only use what's provided by the court. The notepads can't leave the courthouse. They have to stay there. So every evening the notepads are locked up, and then they can get their notepads back every morning. But yeah, you're not supposed to bring your own notepad. Yeah. So was I local to you, Wendy and Brian?
All right. Please be seated. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I know some of you may have brought your own notepads or what have you with you. I would just ask you, leave any of those personal things in the jury room, and when you're in the courtroom, just use the notepads that the court has provided. That way they can stay in here. See?
Yes, Your Honor.
All
Thank you. Going back to, I believe we were talking about a detective making contact with you. Once you had a conversation with the detective, did you become concerned?
Yes.
What did you do?
When I received the call from the Cape Coral detective, myself, Samantha, and her husband and her other cousin all went to Kristine's apartment.
What did you see when you arrived at Kristine's apartment?
When we got there, the police were already there, and they had already put caution tape up around her house.
Did you know any information at that point about where
house to her mom's house, which was right around the corner from Kristine's apartment. And we waited there until the detective came there and informed us that they found.
Sustain.
At some point, did you learn that Kristine had passed?
Yes.
And what happened once you learned that Kristine had passed?
It was devastating.
Did you stay at her mother's home?
No, I went straight from her mother's home to the Cape Coral Police Department and gave a statement.
Now, when you went to Kristine's home and you found yellow crime scene tape around her property, did you see her car sitting in the driveway?
No, and in fact, it was pouring rain, and I remember all of the detectives and police officers standing under her carport and seeing that her car was not there.
Now, when you and Kristine had gone out to the Buddha bar the night before, was her car in that carport?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing defense counsel 5D.
I'm sorry, what?
D.
D.
Approaching you and showing you State's Exhibit 5D. Do you recognize what's in that exhibit?
Yes, those are Kristine's name tags from her Duffy's uniform.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move 5D into evidence.
Any objection?
None.
Be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
You're just talking about Kristine in the carport when you went to her home, showing you Exhibit 5's car at the time. Is
Yes.
that the back of her car?
Yes.
And it's a Versa.
Yes, a Nissan Versa.
I'm showing name tags that she would wear to work when she waited tables at Duffy's.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned giving a statement to law and tell everything to them about the night before and the events that took place at the Buddha all the way until you were contacted about her death.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, did Kristine have any tattoos on her leg?
Yeah, she had a tattoo on her calf of a Gemini symbol with some tribal music notes on the side of it.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing State's Exhibits 10E and 13.
E and
13. May I approach?
you may.
I'm going to ask that you take a look first at 10E. Do you recognize this?
Yes. That's
And what does it
Kristine.
show?
That's the tattoo on Kristine's leg.
And then I'm also going to have you look quickly at 13. Do you recognize that?
Yes, it's Kristine.
And was that after she had passed?
Yes.
And a permission, first of all, the state would move 10E and 13 into evidence.
To be admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
Judge, I would ask that 13 be passed around to the jurors rather than display that one.
Okay.
There's an issue with this thing I'm using probably. So the glitching is a pain in the butt. Unless I can find something else, we're stuck with this.
Then I'm showing 10E. Is that the tattoo on her calf?
Yes.
When you went to Cape Coral, did they show you 6 different photographs of a suspect in this case?
Yes.
May I approach?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as state's composite I'm approaching you and showing you State's Exhibit 41. If you would just take a look at this exhibit and tell me if you recognize it.
Yeah, that's my signature there.
Did a detective show you the series of photographs?
Yes, he showed me all those photographs.
And there's a series of 6 photographs, is that correct?
Yes.
And did the detective in any way give you any idea of who you should pick or who you should identify?
No.
Did you have a fair amount of time to be able to look and see if you could ID anybody?
Yes.
And did you in fact ID someone?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how were you able to tell who you ID'd?
By my signature.
And then did you also
And then
put
the date.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can find.
Himself.
This is driving me
JR?
crazy.
Yes.
I think the website is pulling too much.
Yes.
It's the during the break. I'm going to be looking for something else. This is just ridiculous. Yeah, I'm thinking that it's just not conducive with trying to. It's driving. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Maybe if I refresh. No. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's glitching way too much. I don't even know if I can do it. Yeah, see how it's doing that? This is just not going to work. We're going to have to find something else. This isn't. Hi. It was a nice try. Because now it's pulling too much from the website as far as gigs and all that stuff, and it keeps freezing. Let me see if I can find something else while we're sitting here. They're in the sidebar anyway.
Number 4. Who is picture number 4?
JR.
And do you see JR sitting here in court today?
Yes, he's sitting
Please
right
wait.
over there.
Okay, so the person sitting right over there, is it in a sort of a royal blue
He is wearing
jacket?
a royal blue jacket and a yellow tie.
And is that person the person that you knew as JR?
Yes.
And is that the same person that's in photograph number 4?
Yes, that is the same person in photograph number 4, JR.
And at this time, the state would move 41 into evidence.
No objection.
Be admitted.
I have a moment.
Yeah.
At this time, the state has no further questions and tenders the witness.
All right.
And now we lost it. It's off on their end. All right. Oh, yeah, they lost. So that's the issue. It's not, it's their, the connection or something is the issue, because now it's gone to live view. Hopefully they can bring it back. Let me take a look at. Yeah, it's still off. You guys. Erg. Let's see here. Yeah. You guys will have to just go watch it elsewhere. I can't bring anything else in. There's nothing else that's covering it. Let me see if this thing has, maybe they. I'm guessing they didn't plan to cover all of it. Okay, here we go. Oh wait, what is this? Oh. Oh, I see what it is. They cut away. Okay. So that channel cut away to do their news thing. That's why it stopped. So that won't work. Oh, this is really cruddy. All right, well, I'm gonna take a minute and see what I can find. If I can't find anything, I'm just gonna shut it down. This is frustrating me to death. So, give me a second. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it. If you go over to the docket here, I'll put their channel in. Copy. You can go watch it over there on the dockets channel. All right. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut the stream. Sorry, guys. Talk to you later.